Hello, in this last example, we're going to think about show unneg and show and. So let's get going with our derivation. We show the conclusion, we make our assumption, we bring in our premises. We look for inference rule applications. Not much doing with 2 and 5, just a negation of a sentence letter and a sentence letter. 3 is the negation of a conditional, no inference rules to be applied there. 4 is a conditional. If there's anything we're going to be able to do, it's going to be with 4. We're going to need either the antecedent for modus ponens, which we do not have and cannot obviously get, or the negation of the consequent, which again we do not have and see no clear way to get, so we can't do anything with 4. That means the derivation is stuck, and so we need to do a subderivation. We have 2 options for subderivations. We can do show a negation of 3, or we can do show antecedent of 4. Those are our 2 options. Okay. And eventually we'll complete those, right? Hopefully. Which one should we do you think? Sometimes we can't tell which one we should do. Like in the previous example, we had a bunch of show ant options. Any of them would have been fine. It wasn't, as it turns out, it wasn't obvious which one to do. We just picked one. Sometimes it is clear you have multiple show ant options and there's a bigger conditional, so you choose that one. But here we have show unneg and show ant, so we want to ask ourselves, well, is there a reason to choose one or the other, or should we just pick one and go with it and see? We could just pick one and go with it and see, but actually there is reason to choose one or the other, and I'd like you to think about which one you think is best to choose. So pause the video, think about it, decide which one you think is best, and then come back and we'll talk about it. So now that you're back, which one do we think is best? Well, it's going to turn out that one is better than the other, but it's going to be okay if you had, if your guess was not right, that's fine. So let's think about how we can use these 2. Okay. If we have 8, what can we do? We can do modus ponens with 4. If we do the show ant, then we get the antecedent of a conditional that we haven't used. Then we get to use the conditional. We get if R then S, which is nice. That's good. And actually, that will, if you think about it, you can see things we can do with ROS. What about with show a negation of 3? Well, if we get show a negation of 3, then we can just do ID right away. Yeah. Well, that's better, right? This certainly moves the derivation forward, but this finishes the derivation. And that's what always happens. When you have an unneg, when you complete a show a negation, then you always have what you need for ID. When you complete a show ant, you always have what you need for modus ponens. Well, what's better, ID or modus ponens? Well, maybe you like modus ponens more, but ID does more for you because it boxes and cancels, and we always want to be boxing and canceling. So when we have the option between unneg and ant, we always want to choose the show unneg because it will moves us further along in the derivation. There are other reasons why we want to show unneg that are the other reason why we want to do show unnegation, actually I can explain this, is you can basically never avoid doing show unnegation because you never have a rule that applies to this. So you're always going to have to do the show unneg because you're going to have to use this because our derivations don't have extra premises, and what else are you going to do with that? Whereas with this, although right now we can't do modus ponens, maybe we will be able to do modus ponens in the course of working on this subderivation. So we know not only will this let us finish the derivation, whereas this will get us closer but not necessarily let us finish the derivation right away. Also, we have to do this because it's the only way we know of working with this, whereas we don't necessarily have to do this because maybe we'll get P and not Q later on. Although we can't get it right now, maybe we'll be able to get it. My function button is misbehaving. All right, so we agreed we want to do show a negation of 3. Okay, that's a conditional, so we'll say assume CD. Well, we should show the consequent, because if we do, we can complete 6, and it lets us make this new assumption. Okie doke, so what can we do now? Well, 7 and 9 don't really interact with 2 or 5, right? But what about line 4? Well, we've just been observing that the antecedent of line 4 is P and not Q. And now we have the pieces of P and not Q, and so we can build P and not Q from lines 7 and 9. Okay, good. Well, now we can apply modus ponens, giving us if R then S. What should we do with if R then S? Well, if we look back up, we notice that we have R, so we can apply modus ponens to 5 and 11, and that gives us S. What can we do with S? Well, that's the conclusion of the whole thing, but we can't do direct derivation because we're inside of this. We're not working on that show line right now. We're working on this show line. But we wisely made our indirect assumption on line 2, which contradicts line 12, and so we have what we need for an indirect derivation. Good. In case we've forgotten, 8 is the consequent of the previous show line, so we can apply CD to line 8. Good. In case we've forgotten why we did this, we look over at the keyboard or the shortcut. It's an unnegation. That means that what we just completed is the negation of is the contradiction of line 3, and our derivation is done. So, what happened? We set up our derivation. It was stuck. We had to do a subderivation. We chose to do show on negation for 2 reasons. 1, it lets us complete the derivation when it's done. And 2, what else are we going to do with line 3? And we're going to need to use line 3 anyway. Fortunately, it turned out that this P, we got the P and not Q from the assumptions from setting up our show on the subderivation. And we were able to put them together to do modus ponens with this, giving us R then S, which then nicely interacted with R and not S, letting us set up an indirect derivation inside of here, allowing us to box and cancel Q with indirect derivation, allowing us to box and cancel 6 with conditional derivation, and giving us a contradiction to box and cancel the whole thing. So when you have a choice between show on neg and do show ant, always show on neg is in every way superior to show ant. So there you go. Those are some examples of derivations with show antecedent, and you'll have some problems on your homework where you'll need to use show ant. If you have questions, please post on the discussion boards, and I or another student will get back to you. Good luck with your derivations and symbolizations and truth tables.